Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivara Hari Yashodanandana Brajajanandana Yashodanandana Brajajanandana Jamuna Tira Jamuna Tira Vanasari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivara Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivara Yashodanandana Brajajanandana Yashodanandana Brajajanandana Jamuna Tira Vanasari Jamuna Tira Vanasari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Radha Madhava Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Jaya Prabhupada Gaura Pimanande Dayam Shupada Paramahamsa Pri Vrajgacharya Stotra Satya Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Hirabai Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Namsa Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Skandiviti Founder Charya's Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Hridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Pimanande. All gladies to the assembled devotees, all gladies to the assembled devotees, all gladies to the assembled devotees, all gladies to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all gladies to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Dakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Vedati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Tadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Sya Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sriti Karmani Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tribhyasya Kripa Sindhu Gaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Yato Jayam Udiraya. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayasavadrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Tamashloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasyaya Namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantara, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, as Sridham Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare
Rama Rama, Hare
Rama,
Hare.
Rama Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Surabhyai Namaha.
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Surabhyai Namaha.
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Surabhyai Namaha.
Mukham karoti vācharam tvangum nagayate girim yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinatal. Yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinatal. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are continuing canto number 2, chapter 5, entitled The Cause of All Causes, and text today is 26 to 29. 1, 2, 3, 4 verses together. Yeah. We will just do the first one. Nabhaso atha vikurvanat abhut sparsha guno anilah paranvayat shabdavams cha prana ojah saho balam nabasota vikur nanad abhut sparsha guno nilah paranvayat shabdavamscha prana oja saho balam nabhasota vikur vanad abhut sparsha guno nilah puranvayat shabdavamscha prana oja saho balam nabhasotha vikurvanad abhut sparsha guno nilah Paranvayat Shabdavamscha Prana Oja Sahobalam Navasota Vikurvanad Abhutsparsha Guno Nila Paranvayat Shabdavamscha Prana Oja Sahobalam
Navasota Vikurvana
Navasota Vikurvanad
Abhutsparsha Guno
Abhutsparsha Guno Nilaha Paranvayat Shabdavamscha Prana Oja Sahobalam Nabhasaha of the sky Atha thus Vikurvanat being manifested Abhut generated Sparsha touch Gunaha quality Anilaha air Para previous Anvayat by succession Shabdaban full of sound Cha also Ranaha life Ojaha sense perception Saha fat Balam strength. Okay, we'll just go to the translation now and the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Because the sky is transformed, the air is generated with the quality of touch. And by previous succession, the air is also full of sound. The air is also full of sound, and the basic principles of duration of life, which means sense perception, mental power, and bodily strength. When the air is transformed in course of time, and nature's course, fire is generated, taking shape with the sense of touch and sound. Since fire is also transformed, there is a manifestation of water full of juice and taste. As previously, it also has form and touch, and it is also full of sound. And water being transformed from all variegatedness on earth appears odorous, and as previously becomes qualitatively full of juice, touch, sound, and form, respectively. So can read this again together. Because the sky is transformed. Because the sky is transformed. The air is generated with the quality of touch, and by previous succession, the air is also full of sound and the basic principles of duration of life. Namely, perception, sense perception, mental power, and bodily strength. When the air is transformed in course of time and nature's course, fire is generated, taking shape with the sense of touch and sound. Since fire is also transformed, there is a manifestation of water, full of juice and taste, as as previously, it also has form and touch and is also full of sound. And water, being transformed from all variegatedness on earth, appears odorous, and as previously, becomes qualitatively full of juice, touch, sound, and form, respectively. Purport. The whole process of creation is an act of gradual evolution and development from one element to another, reaching up to the variegatedness of the earth as plants, mountains, rivers, reptiles, birds, animals, and varieties of human beings. The quality of sense perception is also evolutionary, namely generated from sound, then touch, and from touch to form. The taste and odor are also generated along with the gradual development of sky, air, fire, water, and earth. They are all mutually the cause and effect of one another. But the original cause is the Lord Himself in plenary portion as Mahavishnu, living in the causal water of the Mahatattva. As such, Lord Krishna is described in the Bhagavad Gita in the Brahma Samhita as the cause of all causes. And this is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 10:8 as follows. Aham sarvasya prabhavu matasarvam prabhartati iti matva vedante mam buddhabhava samanditaha. The qualities of sense perception are fully represented in the earth, and they are manifested in other elements to a lesser extent. In the sky, there is sound only. Whereas in the air, there are sound and touch. In the fire, there are sound, touch, and shape. And in the water, there is there is taste also, along with the other perceptions, namely sound, touch, and shape. In the earth, however, there are all the above mentioned qualities with an extra development of odor also. Therefore, on the earth there is a full display of variegatedness of life, which is originally uh, started with the basic principle of air. Diseases of the body take place due to derangement of air within the earthly body of the living beings. Mental diseases result from special derangement of the air within the body, and as such, yogic exercise is especially beneficial to keep the air in order, so that diseases of the body become almost nil by such exercises. When they are properly done, the duration of life also increases, and one can have control over death also by such practices. A perfect yogi can have command over death and quit the body at the right moment when he is competent to transfer himself to a suitable planet. The bhakti yogi, however, surpasses all the yogis, because by dint of spiritual devotional service, he is promoted to the region beyond the material sky, and is placed in one of the planets in the spiritual sky by the supreme will of the Lord, the controller of everything. Yeah. So just one more time, read the translation here. Because the sky is transformed, the air is generated. earth, water, fire, air, ether. Normally, we describe these material elements beginning from the gross, the ones that we can touch and see, like earth. But Bhagavatam here is explaining how the manifestation is happening from the other side. From the subtle comes the gross, as we were mentioning yesterday. So from the sky, the air is generated with the quality of touch. So each of these material elements, there's a corresponding sense organ. The material element of sky, which is the most subtle, the sky produces sound. From the sky, sound comes, and the ear is that sense organ that enables one to hear sound. And of course, that's the most subtle, and that's the most, of all the senses that we have, actually that's the most important. It is explained how when we get old, we will all experience in due course of time. It comes soon enough. Then all of the different senses, but generally, unless one becomes completely deaf, but generally, till we leave our body, that is the sense that remains the strongest. In other words, we can be unconscious, or we can be in what we call in coma. We can be in coma, where we are totally disconnected with what is going on around us. I mean, in that coma means the body is like dead. Cannot open the eyes, cannot speak, cannot move. Coma is like dead body. Yeah. But people in coma, they can hear. People in coma, they can hear. And that is why one of the most important activities that that should be done when someone is about to leave their body is to give them that opportunity to hear the transcendental sound vibration of the holy name. And that's why in our Vaishnava practice, just like we were reading in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the later pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it was describing how different devotees were permanently with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. One of those devotees was Srila Haridas Thakur. And Srila Haridas Thakur was quite elderly, and as we know, had taken the vow to chant 3 lakhs names every day. That means all of his time was in. So although he was getting old, he didn't. He continued his vow. But Lord Chaitanya was advised one day that Haridas Thakur is not well. Please come and see him. The Lord Chaitanya went to see Haridas Thakur, and he told him, "Now your body is very old. You don't have to continue chanting as you were." But Haridas Thakur was firm in his determination, and he continued. So anyways, within a short time after that, then the devotees again called Lord Chaitanya that Haridas Thakur wants to leave his body now. The time has come. And so it must have been a very intense scene, because all the devotees gathered at the place where Haridas Thakur was staying. And then Lord Chaitanya was right by the side of Haridas Thakur. And then he asked permission that, my dear Lord, please allow me to leave. And then Lord Chaitanya then, at that time, he ordered, he could understand that Haridas Thakur was about to leave his body. And he told all the devotees, loud chanting, loud chanting. We do that, we see that in our Vaishnav practice as well. So Srila Haridas Thakur, he took the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, put it on his head or his heart, and and he simply kept repeating the name Gauranga, Gauranga, and everyone was chanting in full ecstasy, and Srila Haridas Thakur also, by chanting simply the name of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he left his body in this way. So this hearing is being described here as from the sky, where sound is, air. The air is generated with the quality of touch. The quality of touch. Just like the air since yesterday has changed. Up until those big clouds came, it was hot, very hot. But since the big clouds came yesterday, big wind came, now the air, now the touch is different. Now we feel cool. Finally, body cooling down a little bit. So air is generated with the quality of touch, and touch is the skin. Yeah. Touch. Just like if we, sometimes when the pujari offers a lamp and he goes around and someone is, if one is not careful, he will put his hand too close. Oops. Touch. And then the air, so there's a whole process taking place here. Then the air also is also full of sound. And interesting here, it mentions how the air is also full of sound, and the basic principles of duration of life: sense perception, mental power, and bodily strength. Air is a very, this also described in Bhagavatam, what we call air, different movement of air. I think there are 10 different types of air movements. When one is healthy, then the air is moving as it is meant to. But we see when people get older, then these are different signs of disease because the movement within the body of the air is obstructed in different ways. So therefore, one cannot move so easily, and especially looking at the someone who is very ill or about to die, then we see this whole transformation. We cannot see directly, we can observe that there's a whole change taking place within the body. The air is yeah. So in other words, the proper movement of the air within the body has a direct bearing on one's sense perception, mental power, and bodily strength. Yeah. So that's why people, those who have younger bodies, generally stronger. Healthy body is stronger. Then when the air is transformed in course of time and nature's course, fire is generated. Fire taking shape with the sense of touch and sound. So yes, fire fire is connected with form. Form can be perceived by eyes. With the eyes we can see form, correct? And that fire is also transformed. There is manifestation of water. From fire, water, full of juice and taste. That's why there's a connection. Actually, people want to grow food mechanically. Nowadays, because there's so many problems in growing food around the world, so people are not understanding, for example, that the rays of the moon, there's the sunshine and then the moonshine. Both are needed actually for proper food production. It is said that the rays of the moon is what gives taste to the food. So if you're going to produce food without skipping the natural sequence or the natural arrangement, without the rays of the moon, for example, then that means that the taste will not be there. Modern man is trying to improve upon nature, but actually, yeah, it is very serious subject matter that in different countries they are planning, and at least in one country they have already succeeded in making food in the factory, laboratory, which we can understand is because it's not natural, will have its effect, actually, long-term effect. Means it is not, what is not natural, just like, again, we when we speak of the word, or when we use the word nature, we should not only think of material nature, but we should think of dharma. Dharma means what is natural. Dharma, what is natural. Before becoming devotee, for those of us who were not born in a Vaishnava family, which is the majority, we were not. He's born in the Vaishnava family. But most of us are not born in the Vaishnava family, so we were not acting naturally. We were not acting as devotee. We didn't know, isn't it? So we were not following our spiritual nature. That is why such a big advantage for one who is born in a Vaishnava family from birth, even before birth, from the moment of conception. From the moment of conception, that living entity is hearing the holy name. That living entity is getting prasadam every day. Mother is taking prasadam. So the child inside is getting prasadam. Yeah. So so it means that modern day this description which is here is very detailed and but not properly understood or not properly studied, and therefore in modern day modern science, for example, because they are not familiar with this natural arrangement that is taking place, they try to manipulate and change, and they end up going against nature. They go against nature, therefore all kinds of bad effects, bad results are there. So from fire comes water, full of juice and taste, and as previously, it also has form and touch and is full of sound. So the sky only has sound. But from sound, from sky comes air. And so in air, there is sound and touch. And then from air comes fire. So in fire, there is sound, air, and form. And then from fire comes water. In water, there is sound, yeah. There's what is called water therapy. You've heard of water therapy? Yeah. You can inject into water different sound, actually. That's why our body is made up mostly of water, isn't it? Our body is 80%, I don't know exactly, 79, 80, something, 80%. Most of our body, if we squeeze our body, mostly we'll get water. We're not going to do that, but mostly the body is made of water. That means that whatever sound vibration comes our way, it affects our body. If there is good sound, body will tend to be more healthy. Both the gross and subtle body. So, in other words, this very this arrangement, this description that we are reading now is, may seem like something very not so interesting, but actually it has all kinds of implications, and it is something that is unchanging. Also, this is how the material world is created, and the more we understand how it is created, then the more we should learn to appreciate and respect that natural arrangement. And the more we manipulate, the more we try to, just like nowadays, since many years actually, they're trying to produce clouds. They try to produce rain in places where there's no rain by injecting in the air, isn't it? That's a whole big topic, actually, that is we don't see here so much, but in different countries, they have, I forget what it's called now, but they have airplanes that emit whatever it is that is meant to create some changes, But a lot of it, because that's chemical, a lot of that, largely, again, this is an attempt at manipulating nature, and that's also have. Whenever we try to manipulate nature, just like this body requires a certain amount of food every day. This body requires a certain amount of rest every day. But if we don't give the body sufficient rest, the body will not function properly. Or if we don't eat properly at regulated times, the body will not function properly, isn't it? We are living in a world of systems. The whole material creation is based on very, very precise, detailed systems that Krishna is the origin of all systems. It's called the law of nature. Just like there's a system, we call it the law of gravity. We can walk in this room and there's a wall there. If we don't stop, we'll hit our head on the wall and we'll feel pain. So we must know that before coming to the wall, we have to stop, and not otherwise we're going against the law of nature. Or if here we have a small veranda, if we walk beyond the veranda, we'll fall down. Isn't it? So material nature is teaching us all the time when we break the laws. It's just like if you're going in the car and you're not cautious and you get into what they call head-on collision, then if you survive, you won't do that again, or at least you'll try. You'll try not to do that again. We're constantly trying to avoid. Well, most of us are not very familiar with the different laws of nature, but this particular description here is giving us in detail how the different material elements come into being, and yeah, so just the last portion, the last from water also transform, and earth, which earth has the quality of order, and so that earth also has all of the different elements So we've mentioned this before, and Prabhupada also makes reference to this point that in spiritual life, it is not that we are only interested in knowing about spiritual things, but the subject matter being discussed here has to do with the material creation. So it is also important for us to know the workings of this material nature, because it is coming from Krishna, it is created by Him, and it is meant to be, properly utilized, ultimately for our higher purpose of self-realization. So any questions or comments on this? There's I think one can make a very nice like design explaining these different elements of earth, water, fire, air, and ether, the corresponding manifestation and the corresponding sense, like that. So this is just one example, one of many examples of how material nature is very intricate, very intelligently created. There is a design and a system, and both on the gross material as well as subtle material level, as well as spiritual level. The more we learn to live in harmony with nature, with the gross material nature of the body, the gross body. So disease is when there are disorders, either physical body or the subtle body, and connected with this, of course, is not directly mentioned here, but the whole science of Vastu that we find in Shastra and Vedic literatures is taking into consideration these elements, isn't it? I mean, in the Western world, these things are unknown. It's like when you build a house, where the bathroom will be, where the kitchen will be, where the bedroom will be. You know, people don't know that there are subtle forces, subtle laws of nature that that determine where the kitchen should be, where your water source should be. All these things. It's a very fascinating science, actually. Where the Goshala should be, also where the cows should be, because cows should be there. Yeah. So in many ways, modern day so-called development are speculating and going against, even without being conscious of it, going against many of these subtle laws of nature. There are many laws of nature which are, wow, look at this fan, huh? It's become very dirty, isn't it? So that should not be like that. That should be, yeah. I just noticed that now. Wow, that's horrible. It's not natural. So that will require some thought how to. Yeah. Okay, we can close here for now. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Sri Prabhupada ki Gaur Premanandi.